Okay, so we are in book 2. Book 2, here called Telemachus Sets Sail. And we have gone through book 1. For a quick recap of book 1, we basically introduced some of our major players. We found out that, hey, this is a story about Odysseus, that he's a twisty-turny man in all too many ways. And we met Telemachus. We saw the situation going on at Ithaca. And Athena basically said, hey, Dad, can I go fix it? And Dad said, yes, you can. You're absolutely right, daughter. My smart girl. And Athena is here to essentially help push Telemachus off into basically getting his ass in gear and moving on, and essentially going to find out more about his father so they can start figuring out stuff that's going on in Ithaca. So, oh wow, that is book 3. I need to be in book 2. Which is, can we tell I was taking notes? The wibbly wobbly morally worldly man. Yes, correct. Also turning around all the time in literalness. All right. Okay, so book 2. Telemachus Sets Sail. When young Dawn, with her rose-red fingers, shone once more, the true son of Odysseus sprang from bed and dressed. This is the Fagel's translation of Birchwood Vampire. So, let's briefly talk about Dawn, because she gets referenced all the time, and same with her little rosy fingers. Eos, she is both the goddess and sort of like personification of the dawn. She is the daughter of 2 titans, which are Hyperion and Thea. And she's also the sister of Helios and Selene, or Selene, the sun and moon, respectively. Usually her epithets are that of rosy fingers or forearms, and that's due to the color of the sky at dawn. You know, that beautiful rosy kind of color. Sometimes she's also known as early born. And that ties into one of her children, who is the star Eosphoros, which means dawn bringer, and that's actually usually considered the morning star. Now, later on, sunny days, how do you spell Teucer? I'm not going to go into Teucer here. He's more related to the Iliad, but it's Teucer. Eos is the mother to many children, and she's particularly known in mythology for a lot of her very romantic and sexual adventures with a variety of lovers. Kind of similar to Aphrodite. Not only there's like, you know, all of her trysts that she'll have, but equally she's never the victim of assault, and she's usually the one who's hunting the people. Her most famous lover of all of them is Tithonus. He was a mortal prince. Yeah, a female Zeus, exactly. Good for her. So Tithonus is a mortal prince who she kind of spirited away, but he began to age, and she was like, wait, that's a problem. So she went to Zeus, like, can you grant this man immortality? Which he did, except she kind of forgot to ask for eternal youth, so he continued to age and got older and older, and he just essentially started withering away, because like there's a point where like he couldn't really even get out of bed, and she kept trying to feed him like ambrosia and stuff, but it wasn't working. And in some later stories, she actually turns him into like a cicada as a result, because it's just like so horrifying, him just wasting away in this bed. Now she also has a son named Memnon, who fights actually on the side of the Trojans during the Trojan War, and he's eventually slain by Achilles. Yeah, that is exactly why you need to be very specific with your wording. Like, you gotta, you know, it's sort of like working with a djinn. You gotta get that wording just right. There are logistics. And she is known to drive a chariot. It's drawn by horses, 2 of them known as Firebright and Daybright. Phenomenal cosmic power, itty bitty living space. Yes, exactly. Oh, very ironic considering Selene's story. Yeah, she changed her wording, but just slightly. I can confirm we learned about Greek mythology from Myriad, yes. And the Fae. Yeah, you need a lawyer, basically, when trying to get stuff done. All right. Over his shoulder, he slung his well-honed sword, fastened rawhide sandals under his smooth feet. Again, feet. Noting that his are smooth is to say that he hasn't wandered, he hasn't gone on adventures yet. So, well, does well-held and sore mean well-crafted or practiced with a lot? Kind of both. Could be either. Either or both. And stepped from his bedroom, handsome as a god. Get it, Telemachus, okay? At once he ordered heralds to cry out loud and clear, and summon the flowing-haired Achaeans to full assembly. Their cries rang out. The people filed in quickly. When they'd grouped, crowding the meeting grounds, Telemachus strode in too, a bronze spear in his grip, and not alone. 2 sleek hounds went trotting at his heels. We always love good dogs. So Telegaster's canonically hot. They're all kind of canonically meant to be pretty good looking unless said otherwise. And Athena lavished a marvelous splendor on the prince, so the people all gazed in wonder as he came forward, the elders making way as he took his father's seat. The first to speak was an old lord, Aegyptius, stooped with age, who knew the world by heart. For one dear son had sailed with King Odysseus, bound in the hollow ships to the stallion land of Troy, the spearman Antiphus. But the brutal Cyclops killed him, trapped in his vaulted cave. The last man the monster ate. 3 other sons he had, 1 who mixed with the Suitors, Eurynomus, and 2 kept working their father's farms. Still, he never forgot the soldier, desolate in his grief. In tears for the son he lost, he rose and said among them, "Hear me, men of Ithaca. Hear what I have to say. Not once have we held assembly, met in session, since King Odysseus sailed away in the hollow ships. Who has summoned us now? One of the young men? One of the old-timers? What crisis spurs him on? Some news he's heard of an army on the march, words he's caught firsthand so he can warn us now. Or some other public matter he'll disclose and argue. He's a brave man, I'd say. God be with him, too. May Zeus speed him on to a happy end, whatever his heart desires." Winning words. And with a lucky ring, Odysseus' son rejoiced. The boy could sit no longer, fired up to speak. He took his stand among the gathered men. The herald, Pisenor, skilled in customs ways, put the staff in his hand, and then the prince, addressing old Aegyptius first, led off with, "Sir, that man is not far off. You'll soon see for yourself. I was the one who called us all together. Something wounds me deeply. Not news I've heard of an army on the march, word I've caught firsthand, so I can warn you now, or some other public matter I'll disclose and argue. No, the crisis is my own. Trouble has struck my house, a double blow. First, I have lost my noble father who ruled among you years ago, each of you here, and kindly as a father to his children. But now this, a worse disaster that soon will grind my house down, ruin it all, and all my worldly goods in the bargain. Suitors plague my mother, against her will, sons of the very men who are your finest here. They'd sooner die than approach her father's house, so Icarius himself might see to his daughter's bridal, hand her to whom he likes, whoever meets his fancy. Not they. They infest our palace day and night. They butcher our cattle, our sheep, our fat goats, feasting themselves sick, swilling our glowing wine as if there's no tomorrow. All of it squandered. Now we have no man like Odysseus in command to drive this curse from the house. We ourselves, we're hardly the ones to fight them off. All we do is parade our wretched wickedness. A boy inept in battle. Oh, I'd swing to attack if I had the power in me. By God, it's intolerable what they do. Disgrace. My house, a shambles. Finally, thing to remember, I had mentioned this in book 1, the thing about having to approach Penelope's father, Icarius. they would have to beat him again in a foot race, and we all know it was a huge deal that Odysseus even did. So yeah, no way they don't want to go to her dad, because they know he'll just refuse them. I guess you could say nobody else. Oh yes, oh yes. You should be ashamed yourselves, mortified in the face of neighbors living round about. Fear the gods' wrath before they wheel in outrage and make these crimes recoil onto your heads. Again, I'll CF my video on the Horse and the Infant where I talk about the House of Atreus, the idea of before they wheel into outrage, the whole thing of how after Atreus like lost his throne when he wasn't supposed to, the way they put him back in power was getting Helios to reverse the way the sun went through the sky. So it rose in the west and set in the east. So the wheeling of the sun was completely changed. Yes, Sunny Days, so much family drama. And yes, Game Wizard, I'm fast as fuck, boys! He was notably fast. He was a champion runner. Like, it was part of his thing. I beg you, by Olympian Zeus, by Themis too, who sets assemblies free and calls us into session, stop, my friends. So let's talk about Themis, because she's getting name dropped here. Themis is the goddess and personification of justice. And yes, always the House of Atreus. And yes, that was terrifying of Helios to do. It scared the hell out of the people. So Themis is a Titan, and she was one of the many sort of wives, consorts of Zeus. Their daughter, Dike, is actually the goddess of, or executes what is known as temporal justice, so like rendering judgments and sentencing, kind of like a judge, the way we see it. And together with her mother, they often are the ones who carry out the words of the Moirai, or the Fates, who are very famous in a lot of myths. So Themis' name actually means something closer, instead of just like law or justice, something closer to like divine law. So she's sometimes given this epithet that's Ichneia, which means the tracker. So like she's the one who keeps order and sets things right. She's the one who keeps track of the fates that have been put out. The law school in Ace Attorney is called Themis University. Interesting. Would have been better to call it DK, but I guess that would be hard. Maybe they thought they'd get sued by Nike, but you know, or Nike, whatever. So hence he's bringing up Themis. He's talking about essentially, this is not just temporal justice like their daughter. This is divine justice that I would be calling down. Yeah, a foot race between Icarius, Atalanta, and like Achilles would honestly be foot race of the ages, because they are all notably called things like fleet of foot. And never heard of the Atreus family. Just one day the sun goes wrong. Yeah, can you imagine how much that would freak out the Greeks? Judge Dredd voice, I am the law. Love the Judge Dredd reference. Love it, love it, love it. Where was I? I had Themis. There we go. Leave me alone to pine away in anguish. Unless, of course, you think my noble father, Odysseus, did the Achaean army damage, deliberate harm, and to pay me back, you'd do me harm, deliberately setting these parasites against me. Better for me if you were devouring all my treasure, all my cattle. If you were the ones, we'd make amends in no time. We'd approach you for reparations round the town, demanding our goods till you'd return the lot. But now, look, you load my heart with grief. There's nothing I can do. Filled with anger, down on the ground, he dashed the speaker's scepter, bursting into tears. Seems like a big risk for them insulting the suitors to their faces. He's calling out their bad xenia. So actually, he's got every right to do this. He's deliberately trying to shame them. Shame is used a lot. Because a lot of their ethics and morals and the way the society was run, yeah, read them for filth, was in these sort of societal, almost unspoken kind of contracts you were in with other people. Yeah, shame. He's ringing the bell of shame here. And rightfully so, especially if any of these men are their sons. He's saying, your kids bring shame unto you by behaving this way. And don't even pay taxes. Correct. It's like, start paying rent. Start doing work. Pity seized the assembly. All just sat there. silent. No one had the heart to reply with harshness, because they know he's right. Yeah, he's reading them for filth and doing it rightfully. Get out of my house, you lazy bums, exactly. Get off my lawn. Only Antinous, our forever problem, who found it in himself to say, so high and mighty, Telemachus, such unbridled rage. Well, now, fling your accusations at us. Think to pin the blame on us. You think again. It's not the suitors here who deserve the blame. It is your own dear mother, the matchless queen of cunning. Look here, for 3 years now, getting on to 4, she's played it fast and loose with all our hearts, building each man's hope. Eve, of the Fagles translation of this paperback I have, I'm on page 96. We're around line 100. Dangling promises, dropping hints to each, but all the while with something else in mind. This was her latest masterpiece of guile. She set up a great loom in the royal halls, and she began to weave. And the weaving fine spun the yarns endless, and she would lead us on. Young men, my suitors, now that King Odysseus is no more, go slowly, keen as you are to marry me, until I can finish off this web, so my weaving won't all fray and come to nothing. Yeah, Peg is snoring in the background. I do apologize. You can absolutely hear her. My friends deal with this whenever I voice note them. This is a shroud for old Laertes for that day, when the deadly fate that lays us out at last will take him down. I dread the shame my countrywoman would heap upon me, yes, if a man of such wealth would lie in state without a shroud for cover. Her very words. And despite our pride and passion, we believed her. So by day she'd weave at her great and growing web. By night, by the light of torches set beside her, she would unravel all she'd done. 3 whole years she deceived us blind, seduced us with this scheme. Which, like, dude, for 3 years you didn't notice that this thing didn't get any bigger? My dudes. My dudes. Penelope, you're a legend. Then, when the wheeling seasons brought the 4th year on, one of her women, in on the queen's secret, told the truth, and we caught her in the act, unweaving her gorgeous web. So she finished it off. Against her will, we forced her. So the idea of one of her women. It is known that some of the maidservants would sleep with the suitors, and obviously one of them betrayed her to the suitors and gave it away. There's if anybody is at all curious, when we're talking about like adaptations of stuff and like taking new looks at things, Margaret Atwood, very famously author of like The Handmaid's Tale and other things, has a book called The Penelopiad or The Penelopiad. Hey, you knew exactly where I was going. Where she took her own like version of writing Penelope's POV, and she deals a lot with the maids who sleep with the suitors, betray Penelope, and things that happen to them later. We will not talk about that till we get to the slaughter of the suitors. But if anybody's curious, that is a book that exists. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with it, but it's written in a really interesting way, and it is kind of a fun read. And if you ever want to see someone take like a really pretty unique take at a character, I recommend it. It's also not that long. It's a very short book. It like 250 pages maybe at most. Super short. So the maids to Penelope's court or Odie, sort of, because it's not all the maids. I think it's very specifically somewhere between like 7 and 12. Yeah, my grandfather was sort of on the fence about it. He didn't love it, but he didn't hate it. I'm pretty sure he might have been the one who gifted it to me just because he was like, I think you might find it interesting. How long the suitors been in the house? It says here they've probably been here about at least 4-ish to 5-ish years. So not the whole time. because it obviously takes time for these characters who went to Troy to eventually make their way back home. So there's sort of a grace period when it's like you get the news that, oh, it seems like the war is over. Who was governing Ithaca? So interesting thing about a lot of these where we talk about kings. So a lot of the city-states often did not have one king. They would sort of have multiple kings in the city-states. Sparta's a really good example where they actually had multiple kings. So they would be a king of Sparta or the like. So in the case of Ithaca, there were other kind of lords or characters who would have also sort of been called king of this area, and they would have been helping to sort of run everything. Freeloading for this long, damn, they know no shame. Exactly. Was right about those maidservants. Yeah, they're sort of throwaway characters. Like, they get mentioned mainly for their betrayal because they sleep with the suitors. And that's pretty much it, which is why, again, I say the Margaret Atwood book, she sort of took these characters who had nothing and like blew up a whole sort of gender debate really about it and the gender politics of the time. So again, it's interesting whether you like it or not. I give Margaret Atwood many points for interesting. I heard something that dines with the suitors. In the first book, he's sort of dining with the suitors. Like he kind of has to as master of the house. What about Odysseus' father? Laertes is noted to be so in grief. So he probably did a lot of the governing initially when Odysseus was at Troy, but afterwards, like, his grief is so great, he literally just turns into a hermit and like retreats. Yeah, in like a hut. He's living in just absolute squalor. And Sunny, you totally don't have to delete your messages. You can leave them there. It's totally fine. I know you do it to be considerate. You totally don't have to. If you're a servant, do you have any other choice? That's actually triple A, quadruple A. It is sort of, the question of consent is sort of murky. Generally, if the master of the house has not sort of allowed it, you're not necessarily supposed to. And that's sort of where, again, you're in really murky waters there. And part of why I think Margaret Atwood wrote the Penelopiad or the Penelopiad the way that she did is because there's a murkiness there. Are both daughters of kings from Sparta, but perhaps not related, even if Helen is a daughter of Zeus? AJ, correct. They are both daughters of kings of Sparta. So like Icarius is a king of Sparta, their father is a king of Sparta. And yes, you have the whole Helen is a daughter of Zeus, but yes. How did Odysseus become king with Laertes alive? He sort of, did he step down? Yeah, he just sort of passed it on to his son. Like there's a point where his son is in like basically full vigor. He's in prime of life. You're going to take over and I'm just going to kind of chill out in the back. Yeah. So, because it's a little less about your guaranteed inheritance, you come to the throne and everybody will just obey you. There are a lot of power dynamics that are going on where it's like, who's the richest, who's the most powerful, like who's got the chutzpah of the moment to be able to really lead. So the Greek city-states were super interesting in that way. Man just wants to garden in his retirement. Kinda, except he's mostly, what was he doing while the suitors were in the palace? Do you mean Laertes? By the time that the suitors are showing up, it's often indicated that was probably when Laertes left. Those things all kind of culminated in each other. Like the death of Odysseus' mom, Laertes going into seclusion, that's probably right around when you start getting the suitors showing up, but they're starting to show up. Yeah, Laertes is barely keeping his sanity together. That man is so distraught. Bad timing. Kind of deliberate timing. Kind of a quorum. Yeah, and it would sort of vary city-state to city-state, but yeah, that's an idea. Bad timing, but timing that's sort of on purpose, because then once that's out of, like, Laertes and all these other people are kind of out of the way, it's like, oh, well, who's really going to say no? And we're not going to go to Penelope's dad, because obviously he'll say no, and then we really have to leave. And so the thrillers pulled him Sergeant valid, yeah. Laertes plays a much bigger role when you get to essentially the last book of the Odyssey, book 24. It's pretty much like we really go into Laertes there. So like he gets mentioned a lot, but he's not an active player until like the last book. It's not wrong if no one says it is. There's kind of, yeah. Look, people bend the rules all the time. Yeah, exactly. Achromatic, yeah, you got it. You got it. Now, Telemachus, here's how the suitors answer you. You burn it in your mind, you and all our people. Send your mother back. Direct her to marry whomever her father picks, whoever pleases her. So long as she persists in tormenting us, quick to exploit the gifts Athena gave her. a skilled hand for elegant work, a fine mind and subtle wiles too. We've never heard the like, not even in old stories sung, of all Achaea's well-coiffed queens who graced the years gone by. Mycenae crowned with garlands, Tyro and Alcmena. No one could equal Penelope for intrigue, but in this case, she intrigued beyond all limits. So, we will devour your worldly goods and wealth as long as she holds out, holds to that course the gods have charted deep inside her heart. Great renown she wins for herself, no doubt. Great loss for you in treasure. We'll not go back to our estates or leave for other parts. Not till she weds the Argive man she fancies. Oh, also, yes, I see the Mycenaean news making a comeback. We love the Mycenaean news in this house. Yeah, the fact they're telling him to send her back is like, Antinous is the king of where the fuck do you get off? Bro, sit your ass down. He's the worst. He's awful. What's an Argive? It's another word for the Greeks. So Argives, Achaeans, Danaians, there's a lot of, because there's Greece is not really like a country. It's a collection of city-states, and there's sort of different regions in the area. So you get lots of different names, and it just means these are Greeks. Can't put, ooh, don't pull an Oedipus. No, because what Oedipus did is, but if I had my voice on, yeah. What Oedipus did was highly frowned upon. It was absolutely not. He makes him as much as the House of Atreus, and that says something. Yeah, Antinous is the worst. I don't think he has the sway to become king himself. He's kind of in the best position at the moment. Like, he's got a lot of wealth, and therefore, you know, he's sort of like trying to basically boost his like presence to say like, I could eventually take over or something. Yeah, he's the worst. Not Oedipus, yeah. Just having hella suitors picked. You think they'd think twice before doing all the, you'd think, but most of them were not there for the Penelope, for the Helen suitors thing. And the only reason the Helen thing actually turned out as well as it did was because the pact was created. Just wait till you get to hear the good song. I've heard he's got a good voice. I've been told, so I am eagerly waiting until I start hearing his voice. The Eurylochus of the suitor is always a problem. Yeah, in the Odyssey, very much. Very much. Except he's not as cowardly as Eurylochus. Like, Eurylochus is straight up slagged on as a coward in the Odyssey. Like, wait till we get to Eurylochus. You will see. Penelope being drop dead gorgeous is kind of bonus. Yeah, it's power control. That's the thing. But with calm good sense, Telemachus replied, Antinous, how can I drive my mother from our house against her will, the one who bore me, reared me too? My father is worlds alive, dead or alive, who knows? Imagine the high price I'd have to pay Icarius if all on my own I send my mother home. What I would suffer from her father. And some dark god would hurt me even more when mother, leaving her own house behind, calls down her withering furies on my head, and our people's cries of shame would hound my heels. And the thing with calling down the furies, that is a nod, very likely, to the story of Orestes, which is the house of Atreus, Orestes being the son of Agamemnon and Clytemnestra. Yeah, yo, Grandpa Icarius, do not fuck with that guy. He's awesome. He's a total badass. Yes, that is, you were correct. That is what happened in the Oresteia. So the Oresteia, for those of you who don't know, is a trio of plays by the writer Aeschylus. I've got a copy back on my shelves there. Again, the House of Atreus, I know. And it is Agamemnon, the libation bearers, and the Eumenides, or I might have had those two mixed up, but the Eumenides is another word that's often thrown out for the Furies, and that is something that happened to Orestes as a result of committing matricide. Always the House of Atreus, or Jason, always blame Jason. Yeah, also always blame Jason. Why? Oh no, see, Dunzu, don't say that to me if that tells me Epic doesn't like give you the proper badass that is Telemachus, because he is a badass. Like, he's young and he's naive, he's 20, you know, he's full of that 20-year-old energy they've got. I've got two younger brothers and they're past 20 now, so there you go. But anyway, Yeah, he's absolutely talking correctly and saying like the Furies could be called on me. Part of the reason the Furies were called upon Orestes was because he committed matricide. Even though he's sort of setting things right, it's still matricide. And also, if anyone is curious, I do recommend reading the ODYSSEY, because that is such a great story. It's kind of the finale of the whole House of Atreus mess, because it starts with the play Agamemnon, which is Agamemnon getting home and being axed. Don't be a problem, like, need a shirt. Yes, that would be a great shirt. Another shirt that was like, always, it's unless you're Agamemnon, or it's always Agamemnon. But like that trio of plays, super famous. They're usually all performed together in some way. Like you don't often see them presented on their own. They are a proper trilogy and they're awesome. And they're not long because they are plays. Yeah, baby boy fest. Yeah, the phrase I remember from the old world of tropes would be whoopified. You whoopify Telemachus. Anyway, there we go. But he's right in saying, like, yo, the Furies could get called, but also, bitch, have you met my grandpa? I am not gonna deal with my grandpa being mad at me. I'm not stupid. I will never issue that ultimatum to my mother. And you, if you have any shame in your hearts, you must leave my palace. See to your feasting elsewhere. Devour your own possessions, house to house by turns. But if you decide the fare is better, richer here, destroying one man's goods and going scot-free, all right then, carve away. But I'll cry out to the everlasting gods in hopes that Zeus will pay you back with a vengeance. All of you destroyed in my house, while I go scot-free. Yeah, this is Telemachus' really final nail. You stay, you violate Xenia, you are in the wrong to all the people here, and if they won't do anything, may Zeus smite thee. Mic drop, yeah. Telemachus gets some really good mic drop moments. Like, I mean, he's got two parents who've been gifted with good shit by Athena. He got some good genetics. Just summon Zeus, my boy. He's threatening it, but he's really hoping that he can find out stuff about his father first. So he's dangling a very real threat at them. Yeah, stop fucking around or you're gonna find out. And to seal his prayer, far-seeing Zeus sent down a sign. He launched 2 eagles, soaring high from a mountain ridge, and down they glided, borne on the wind's draft a moment, wing to wingtip, pinions straining taut, till just above the assembly's throbbing hum they whirled, suddenly, wings thrashing, wild onslaught of wings, and banking down at the crowd's heads, a glaring, fatal sign. Talons slashing each other, tearing cheeks and throats, they swooped away on the right through homes and city. So we gotta talk about eagles, omens and eagles. Omens are a big thing. And the omen of the eagles is something that has appeared in mythology before. We talked about the ODYSSEY. In Agamemnon, they talk about this famous thing, the omen of the eagles, which was what led Agamemnon and the priests to think that Zeus was saying, oh, you need to sacrifice your daughter to me because you pissed off my girl Artemis, which, no. But yeah, Zeus's omens are usually in the form of eagles. Now, what's great about this is the very, very obvious omen is omen. Your room goes, what was that? Probably nothing. So what's interesting is they talk very specifically about how these eagles swoop away to the right? This implies good luck for Telemachus. So fun fact, for those of you who don't know, the right, like literally right versus left, is usually associated with luck, and the left is actually associated with the idea of unlucky or like things that are sinister. And what's interesting, although it's a completely different language, fun fact I had learned from studying Latin is actually the word for left in Latin is sinistra, which is the root of the word sinister, which sort of like kept enforcing down through generations, and other Romance languages I'm sure are probably similar, this idea that the left is the sinister. Early left-hander slander. It's true. My youngest brother is left-handed, so we constantly make jokes about that. How did I punish Prometheus' eagle? Baby, I deliver. Correct, Detsu. Today's a great day. I am sinister, rah, rah, rah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Why would all the gods Artemis want to say it? Correct. Like they pissed off Artemis, but the gods do not demand human sacrifice. I have a friend who's left-handed. Oh, I know, yeah. Odin has 2 ravens. Okay, that's actually neat. Lefty club, let's go. I was gonna say all the left-handeds, you can say you choose violence because you're sinister. Play your like absolute to the left, always, always. So many jokes. Again, my youngest brother's left-handed. We've made many a joke about that. Yes, forever describe yourself as sinister, and you can be like, actually, did you know? Did you know? It's a great did you know moment. Redoubles the ancient Greek grammar, dual everywhere in the equal part. Ah, yes. And obviously, yeah, Zeus omens are equals all the time. Is ambisinister, aka 2 left? Was only pretending to accept the sacrifice. Yeah, because that becomes the question. Fun fact, I remember actually writing a paper in college where I was talking about Agamemnon, and I think I was referencing also the play Hippolytus, and I was talking about this like dynastic ethos of fathers killing their children. And one of the things my professor queried back at me was like, well, if the sacrifice wasn't demanded, why did the winds blow? And it's always interesting. Have you looked at Emily Wilson? I have not yet. I've heard a lot about it. It might be one of those things that I grab after I finish Epic, just kind of to read on my own time, because I'm curious. I do have some worry about it being an iambic pentameter, but honestly, I don't know enough about Greek grammar and like how that might affect translation to say too much on that. Dexterous comes from the word from right, I believe. Yes, correct. All right. So we just had our dramatic eagles. Seen people hate on it. Yeah, I think that can be very tomato, especially if you're not like considering the like translation itself. And obviously I don't know ancient Greek. I can't speak to that. I'd probably have to talk to my grandfather to get a better grip on like what he thinks could like potentially affect the translation in changing the meter, because obviously Homeric epics, the Homeric Greek is done in dactylic hexameter, which I once tried to look up and understand, and I was like, I'm not reading the Greek, so I'm a little lost. There you go. Dramatic eagles should get drama organ when they come on scene. Like, honestly, I mean, if he teams up with Hans Zimmer again for the soundtrack, Chris Nolan, if you give me some drama eagles, I want you to allow Zimmer to give me more drama organ a la Interstellar. Saying word for word, I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, so Dan said I can say another good translation for that would be Richmond Lattimore is known for his translations being like that too. And anytime I studied the classics like in a classroom setting and we were doing it in translation, we always used Lattimore because he's very precise in his translations. Let them have the organs, honestly. Honestly. All were dumbstruck, watching the eagles trail from sight, people brooding deeply what might come to pass, until the old warrior, Halitherses, Mastor's son, broke the silence for them, the one who outperformed all men of his time at reading bird signs, sounding out the omens, rose and spoke, distraught for each man there. Hear me, men of Ithaca, hear what I have to say. Through my revelations strike the suitors, first of all. A great disaster is rolling like a breaker toward their heads. Clearly, Odysseus won't be far from loved ones any longer. Now, right now, he's somewhere near, I tell you, breeding bloody death for all these suitors here. Pains aplenty too for the rest of us who live in Ithaca's sunlit air. Long before that, we must put heads together, find some way to stop these men or let them stop themselves. Better for them that way by far. I myself am no stranger to prophecy. I can see it now. Odysseus, all is working out for him, I say. Just as I said it would that day the Argives sailed for Troy, and the mastermind of battle boarded with them. I then said, after many blows, and all his shipmates lost, after 20 years had wheeled by, he would come home, unrecognized by all. But now, look, it all comes to pass. Sometimes they read the omens with scary accuracy. Like, look. Sometimes they're not right, and sometimes they are. In this case, this dude knew his shit. Yes, also my face while reading. I know, I love reading dramatically. It's so much fun. Sorry, my screen keeps falling asleep. I should remember to... Will you take my password and stop with these shenanigans? might need to replace my battery. Give me a second, guys, while I, technical difficulties. I'm going to make it show so my screen stops turning off. I usually set my thing to be really short, and that's why. That's my bad. No, that's not what I needed. Whatever, fine. Be a pain in my ass. Okay. Ignoring prophets and omens because they don't like the message. Correct. Omens greater than prophecy. They're kind of together. One in the same, slightly different from each other. Either way, most of those things are going to come to pass. The omens kind of function as prophecy in a way, because like what it's telling them is like, you're all going to die if you keep this shit up. Like that's what the eagles are telling them, right? As is always custom in it. I wonder if the prophet will listen to, someone will listen to the prophet. Just see his dramatic eagles. Well, I'm out. Yes, correct. I'm telling you flat out to shape up and you ignore it. That's when you crack out the pop. That's when literally, if anybody's familiar with the West Wing, you turn into, you just go, Ginger, get the popcorn. What do you mean? This is the wind. What are you talking about? What? Exactly. Oh my God. Stop, old man. Eurymachus, Polybus' son, rose up to take him on. Go home and babble your omens to your children. Save them from some catastrophe coming soon. I'm a better hand than you at reading portents. Flocks of birds go fluttering under the sun's rays. Not all are fraught with meaning. Odysseus, he's dead now, far from home. Would to God that you'd died with him. We'd have escaped your droning prophecies then. The way you loosed the dogs of this boy's anger. Your eyes peeled for a house gift he might give you. Here's my prophecy, bound to come to pass. If you old codger, wise as the ages, talk him around, incite the boy to riot, he'll be the first to suffer, let me tell you. And you, old man, we'll clap some fine on you. We'll weep to pay, a fine to crush your spirit. No, the suitors are literally mean girls. Like looks, Greeks are very sassy. And I say the Greeks are all about the drama with a capital D, and that comes in all forms. Yes, Eurymachus is a mean girl. He's such a mean girl. Everybody mean girl. Telemachus, here in front of you all, here's my advice for him. Let him urge his mother back to her father's house. Her kin will arrange the wedding, provide the gifts, the array that goes with a daughter dearly beloved. Not till then, I say, will the island princes quit their taxing courtship. Who's there to fear, I ask you? Surely not Telemachus, with his tiresome threats. Nor do we balk, old man, at the prophecies you mouth. They'll come to grief. They'll make us hate you more. The prince's wealth will be devoured, as always, mercilessly. No reparations, ever. Not while the queen drags out our hopes to wed her, waiting day after day, all of us striving hard to win one matchless beauty, never courting others, bevies of brides who suit each noble here. Telemachus answered, firm in his resolve. Telemachus. Eurymachus, the rest of you fine brazen suitors, I have done with appeals to you about these matters. I'll say no more. The gods know how things stand, and so do all the Achaeans. And now all I ask is a good swift ship and a crew of 20 men to speed me through my passage out and back. I'm sailing off to Sparta. Sandy Pylos, too, for news of my long-lost father's journey home. Someone may tell me something, or I may catch a rumor straight from Zeus. Rumor that carries news to men like nothing else. Now, if I hear my father's alive and heading home, hard pressed as I am, I'll brave out one more year. If I hear he's dead, no longer among the living. Then back I'll come to my native land I love, raise his grave mound, build his honors high with the full funeral rites that he deserves, and give my mother to another husband. A declaration, and the prince sat down as Mentor took the floor. Odysseus' friend in arms, to whom the king, sailing off to Troy, committed his household, ordering one and all to obey the old man, and he would keep things steadfast and secure. I did say last time, keep in mind mentees. Mentor was going to show up. So he's basically the guy that Odysseus trusted and said, hey, I need you to run shit while I'm gone. And that included also helping to raise Telemachus. Yes, we got Mentor. With deep concern for the realm, he rose and warned. Totally not. So this is actually Mentor, not Athena in the guise of Mentor. She shows up in the guise of Mentor later, but this is the actual Mentor, the dude himself. Hear me, men of Ithaca. Hear what I have to say. Never let any sceptred king be kind and gentle now, not with all his heart, or his mind set on justice. Suitors, you sure? Yes, I'm very sure. This is the actual Mentor. Athena does show up as Mentor, and they talk about when it's her appearing as Mentor. As the one Spider-Man meme. Yes, correct. Is this where the English word mentor comes from? I do believe yes. Somebody I think had mentioned it. I'm not a linguist, so I can't be certain, but I'm pretty sure that yes, the English word mentor, the idea of a mentor comes from this character, and then also Athena showing up and pretending to be Mentor later on. No, let him be cruel and always practice outrage. Think, not one of the people whom he ruled remembers Odysseus now, that godlike man, and kindly as a father to his children. I don't grudge these arrogant suitors for a moment, weaving their violent work with all their wicked hearts. They laid their lives on the line when they consume Odysseus's worldly goods, blind in their violence, telling themselves that he'll come home no more. But all the rest of you? How you rouse my fury. Sitting here in silence. Never a word put forth to curb these suitors, paltry few as they are, and you so many. Mentor! Eunor's son Leocritus rounded on him, shouting, rabble-rousing fool, now what's this talk? Goading them on to try and hold us back? It's uphill work. I warn you, fighting a force like ours. For just a meal. Even if Odysseus of Ithaca did arrive in person to find us well-bred suitors feasting in his halls, and the man were hell-bent on routing us from the palace. Little joy would his wife derive from his return, for all her yearning. Here on the spot, he'd meet a humiliating end if he fought against such odds. You're talking nonsense. Idiocy. Can we tell how much I think the suitors are our problem? Like, man, Eunar really thinks he snapped with that. When I'm telling you, Mentor just laid the shit down. I just suitor talk like the Heathers, because they are. They are the mean girls. I had to do the snap. It was right there. It was calling. No more. Come. Dissolve the assembly. Each man return to his holdings. Mentor and Halitherses can speed our young prince on. His father's doddering friends since time began. He'll sit tight in a good while, I trust, scrabbling for news right here in Ithaca. He'll never make that trip. This broke up the assembly. Keen to leave, the people scattered quickly, each to his own house, while the suitors strolled back to King Odysseus' palace. Telemachus, walking the beach now, far from others, washed his hands in the foaming surf and prayed to Pallas. Pallas, of course, as we remember, being Pallas Athena. We talked about this in book 1. Dear God, hear me. Yesterday you came to my house. You told me to ship out on the misty sea and learn if father, gone so long, is ever coming home. Did everyone talk in large paragraphs back in the day? Yes, when you consider that this is all being told like dramatically and as oration. So like you want all the dialogue, you want all the lines. You want all the lines. Like you want to show off in a way. And because with a lot of this, a poem like this is not being put on like a play. It's usually like one person delivering the whole epic. So easiest to essentially have him kind of have to tell and not show. It's just the way he's got to do it. One day I'll remember how to figure out how to keep my screen on long enough so that I don't lose my notes, because sometimes I forget what I put notes on. Oh my god, I can type. Woo! Telemachus, the OG Disney princess, yes. It's oral tradition, basically all dialogue, yeah. From charm to old epics and long speech. This is the part we're getting at my want song. Yeah, like, I am on my way. I can go the distance, please. Learn if father gone so long is ever coming home. Look how my countrymen, the suitors, most of all, the pernicious bullies, foil every move I make. I can. I'm not going to do it now. I'll have to remember how, or we'd just be sitting here a while. It's something I forget about for computer settings. Athena came to his prayer from close at hand, and for all the world with mentor's build and voice. And she urged him on with winging words. Telemachus, you'll lack neither courage nor sense from this day on. Not if your father's spirit courses through your veins. Now, there was a man, I'd say, in words and action both. So how can your journey end in shipwreck or defeat? Only if you were not his stock, Penelope's too, then I'd fear your hopes might come to grief. Aw, thank you, Silver Cookie. Few sons are the equals of their fathers. Most fall short, all too few surpass them. But you, brave and adept from this day on, Odysseus' cunning has hardly given out in you. There's every hope that you will reach your goal. Put them out of your mind, these suitors' schemes and plots. They're madmen, not a shred of sense or decency in the crowd. Nor can they glimpse the death and black doom hovering just at their heads to crush them all in one short day. Slaughter of the suitors is coming, guys, except not for the end. Can you tell? Yeah. Oh, Peg snores do sound like purrs. It's true. Sorry, Peg, I didn't mean to wake you. We're sorry. But you, the journey that stirs you now is not far off. Not with the likes of me, your father's friend and yours, to rig you a swift ship and be your shipmate too. Now home you go and mix with the suitors there, but get your rations ready. Pack them all in vessels, the wine in jars, and barley meal, the marrow of men's bones, in durable skins, while I make rounds in town and quickly enlist your crew of volunteers. Lots of ships in sea-girt Ithaca, old and new. I'll look them over, choose the best in sight. We'll fit her out and launch her into the sea at once. Yeah, I am on my way to murder all these men. That's really Odysseus. Telemachus does help, but like, man, Odysseus does them real. What did she mean, the marrow of men's bones? So barley was like a staple of the Greek diet. And so it was like kind of in the way we talk about things like oatmeal, or that like it sticks to your bones. It's the idea that like that's a slow digesting carb that's going to keep you full. Skipping towards carnage. Absolutely. Follow the yellow brick road to death. It's going to be great. And so Athena, wait, down on your marrow bones and pray. Yeah, exactly. And so Athena, daughter of Zeus, assured him, no lingering now. He'd heard the goddess's voice, but back he went to his house with aching heart, and there at the palace found the brazen suitors, skinning goats in the courtyard, singeing pigs for roasting. Antinous, smiling warmly, sauntered up to the prince, grasped his hand, and coaxed him, savoring his name. Telemachus, my high and mighty, fierce young friend, No more nursing these violent words and actions now. Come, eat and drink with us, just like the old days. Whatever you want, our people will provide. A ship and a picked crew to speed you to Holy Pylos, out for the news about your noble father. But self-possessed Telemachus drew the line. Antinous, now how could I dine with you in peace and take my pleasure? You ruffians carousing here. Isn't it quite enough that you, my mother's suitors, have ravaged it all, my very best, these many years while I was still a boy? But now that I'm full grown and can hear the truth from others, absorb it too. Now, yes, that anger seethes inside me. He was very similar to how Jorge wrote Antinous. Yeah, no, Antinous is very clearly like skeezy and slimy and just like, I'll stop at nothing to hurl destruction at your heads. Whether I go to Pylos, what does he mean? So actually, Antinous is not that much older than Telemachus, so they would have actually kind of grown up together a bit. I know, it just adds to the creepy and the gross. Whether I go to Pylos, so sit here at home, but the trip I speak of will not end in failure. Go I will, as a passenger, nothing more. Since I don't seem to command my own crew, that, I'm sure, is the way that suits you best. With this, he nonchalantly drew his hand from Antinous's, and I'm sure wiped it down. While the suitors, busy feasting in the halls, mocked and taunted him, flinging insults now. God help us, one young buck kept shouting. He wants to slaughter us all. He's off to sandy Pylos to hire cutthroats, even Sparta perhaps. So hot to have our heads. Why, he'd rove as far as Athena's dark, rich soil and run back home with lethal poison, slip it into the bowl and wipe us out with drink. So, Athena, or Athena, the reference we've got here. Yeah, nonchalant, I know. God, they're just pushing their luck, and they really are. Like, we are driving in how bad the suitors are. So Athena is actually, it's a city said to be in like northwestern Greece. It's very specifically associated with an ancient Greek temple that was devoted to Hades and Persephone. It was known as the Necromanteon, and that name literally means like oracle of the dead. So there was an oracle who was there. Those who were faithful or the faithful would come to this place to speak to their ancestors. Usually it was believed that this place was actually a door to Hades, aka a door to the underworld. So what's interesting is often when they say you're going to Hades, you're talking either about the person or the place. Very cool. So the reason this particular place, what, if I'm in the wrong, the gods strike me down, cue drama organ, Odysseus walks through the door like the specter of death. Yeah, basically. So I say like the slaughter of the suitors is so satisfying when you get to it. It's so good. So Athena and this particular temple is located on the banks of, was said to be located on the banks of the convergence of 3 of the 5 rivers of the underworld. Very specifically, Acheron, which means like the river of woe, the Pyriphlegethon, which, Pyriphlegethon, it's a bit of a mouthful, which was like the fire-flaming river, and then Kokitos, which was the river of lamentation. So that is why they're saying like, oh wow, he'd go to the, like he'd walk straight up into hell so he could get a poison to kill us all, basically. Which is like, bro, I don't know why you're talking like you don't think he, I mean, part of it is, yeah, that's how you say Pyriphlegethon. Oh my god. Let's not give me tongue twisters, guys. There is the river Lethe and there's the river Styx. Those are the other 2. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That one is such a tongue twister. It throws me every time. I have to like sit there and like work really hard at it. So part of the thing is he's making, can you say the Kokitos? And Styx is for oath, correct. I love watching me try. I know, I do try. Greece has some scary rivers, correct. And then, so part of it is like he's making this really grand, like, I bet he'd go to the ends of the earth to do it, because they actually don't think Telemachus will. Like, they don't take him very seriously, which again is to their peril. Based on the river in Halitherses. Nice. Let's see. Who knows? Another young blade up and ventured. Off in that hollow ship of his. He just might drown. Far from his friends, a drifter like his father. What a bore! He'd double our work for us, splitting up his goods, parceling out his house to his mother and the man who weds the queen. So splitting up his goods is an important bit, because so what they're talking about is like, if you operate under the assumption that Odysseus is dead, if Telemachus were to then also die, the palace and the property, all of associated with that house, essentially that family, would actually revert to Penelope, as she's the wife, and then whomever she chose to marry would then be able to have all that property and those possessions and all of the treasure and stuff like that. So the suitor, this says a lot, just even this one little bit, because I mean, it's, oh yeah, can they get any more evil? They are truly the worst. So what makes this even worse is the suitors are, of course, at this point, assuming she's going to pick one of them, as opposed to, like, who would know, pull someone else out of her ass and be like, yeah, you've never heard of this guy, I'm marrying him, sucks to be you. But they're all assuming she's going to pick one of them. And this suggestion of the division of property, it's almost akin to, like, a consolation prize is essentially what they're saying. They're talking about, like, it's a consolation prize to those she rejects, is how they divide up the property. And, like, by the way, this is just a further driving in the Greeks with these three, like, wow, they are really in full violation of Xenia. Like, the level of, you're being illegal, bro. Like, bro, that's illegal. Like, what the fuck are you doing? It is, the hierarchy of ownership is Odysseus, Telemachus, Penelope. Correct. Because she'd be the last one there. And by that point, they're also just assuming Laertes is going to be dead, which, I mean, by that point, he probably would be. Yeah, it's like we are in such full violation of Xenia at this point that it's just like, bro, shut the fuck up. And it's like, oh, you dead. Oh, you're all dead. Like as if this wasn't already clear, you dead. Y'all so dead. They're just sitting here just like, they're just digging their graves a little deeper. Just hand them a shovel. They're already there. Rand, it's nice. Oh, well, Rand, I'm glad that this helps make this make more sense. It is true, and at least in the American public education system, they've got to speed through these real fast. It is tough to want to keep digging in and in, and you'd really only learn a lot of this probably if you're at, like, a university level and you were just, like, devoting time to it. Yeah, I mean, really, Kuneritku? I'm gonna call you Kun if you don't mind. Yeah, like, they're already basically in the bad books, if you will. This is just like, bruh. Yeah, fueling the pyre. They've built the pyre, now they're just pouring gas. Straight up pouring oil and gasoline and all that to make it just light better. Zeus gave them last call and they just said, nah. Yeah, exactly. Do the suitors even get a funeral pyre? Spoilers, we have to get to that section. That's not till the end, you will see. Yeah, Mary, it's true. In high school, you do a really skim through version. You can call me Kune. Okay, thank you. I will, because I don't want to mess up your name. As somebody with a name that gets, like, my full name is forever mispronounced, hence I go by Mad for short. As nothing had struck them up until, there's an arrogance to them, yeah. They're operating under the assumption, well, we didn't get hit yet, but they also, it's pretty clear, don't think they're doing anything wrong, which is part of the problem. Yeah, it can be tough, and the Iliad, which I love the Iliad. The Iliad and the Odyssey, it's the same way I think with Shakespeare. They are best done where you have somebody basically performing it aloud. I think you lose a lot when you don't do that. Oh, at this point, Zeus is like Athena, like Odysseus got it. We're gonna eventually get to, I talked about in Epic, hubris is a major theme of the book. Yes, I am. It's the same reason that Athena has sort of not to this point stepped in, or especially even stepped in with Odysseus, is that, like, she's not worried. She knows Odysseus is going to come home and he's going to fuck shit up. Do these idiots? No, they do, and it's shame on them and shame on their families. Like, part of what Telemachus and the others were doing in that kind of quorum was, like, he's shaming them because, like, your sons are the ones doing this, and it's a shame on you that they're doing this as well. Sunny, does you have a question? Yes, Sunny, what is your question? Also, Mary Shakespeare in high school wasn't so bad. Yeah, I actually took a Shakespeare elective class in high school, and our teacher for that was super fun. She had us, like, she would pick us and we would stand up and perform all the plays that we were doing, like, as that's how we would study it. It was so much fun. Sometimes I just think Odysseus doing it more. Yeah, pretty much. You say, we're waiting on your question, Sunny, or Firehead Lasso. If whoever types out their question first is the one I will go at before I then continue on. We're almost done, though. We're only a handful of pages left. Amelia and the Odyssey was really fun to listen to. Oh, that's cool, Olivia. If the Cyclops encounter had gone the way it did in the Odyssey, would Odysseus still be in the right to clean his house on the suitor? Yes, because what happens with Polyphemus has nothing to do with what's happening with the suitors. He's absolutely in the right to clean house with the suitors the way that he does. Absolutely. Something so important in their culture. Why would the suitors? Because they're awful. Like, yeah, so Rachel, that's why they have. Because they're awful. Or if the Cyclops encounter had gone the way it did. Oh, in Epic, would Odysseus still be? Yes. Again, what happens with the Cyclops? No bearing on what he does when he gets home. Like, he comes home, that is his home, his house, they're violating it. Off they go. All good, Sunny. Hey, we all make typos. Totally fine. So yes, he absolutely has right to clean house when he comes home. Negate doing it. Correct. The only time in a situation it'll sort of negate is if, like, the injured party chooses to, like, forgive a violation. But it's like, that would have to be the same instance, if that makes sense. So, like, if in the case of, say, Polyphemus, if you look at how it goes in Epic, because we haven't hit it in the Odyssey, if Polyphemus has said, I absolve you of your Xenia violation, all this, they then could have carried on and everything would have been fine. Firehead, Lazo, what was your question? I feel like guest rights isn't a common enough theme in fantasy. It was in GOT, but I can't think of another. Yeah, because it's sort of like, how do you explain it to people? It turns into one of those things that can feel like exposition. Did get punished for breaking Xenia in Epic, so even if he's not in the right, he paid for it. Yeah, I was goofing on Sunny. Oh, got you. All right, there we go. If Sadie brings Xenia first, in a sense. Yeah, yes, he very much breaks it first in Epic. Like, without question, he breaks it first. And that's also where you say, like, kind of intent doesn't matter too much. A Fagel's translation, I'm realizing. The Fagel's translation is so much fun. I am a big fan of this translation, and I've read several. But this one, I think, is one of the most accessible, just because of the way he writes it. It, like, just, like, puts it all in very clear language. And he keeps it very dramatic. He keeps the high drama there. So they scoffed, but Telemachus had it down to his father's storeroom, broad and vaulted, piled high with gold and bronze, chests packed with clothing. Hold on, one moment. Demon of Zai. Out of curiosity, could anyone involved in this potentially save themselves if they invoked Hekatea? Possibly, but the violation that's going here at this point is so severe, and also because Zeus has thrown down an omen, like, you're pretty much like, there is no saving you. So you could argue the suitors at this point are sort of like, nah, fuck it. But I don't think there's an element of that there. The Rio translation is hard to write down without being too drawn out. Sleepy, yeah, it's tough. You could probably do it in throwaway lines, but if you really wanted to dig into it, like, you'd be able to dig into it more in a book. You could try and establish it in other formats, but again, a lot of this is stuff that you like. Part of the reason I'm taking the time to explain is obviously because to this degree, this is written, you know, to contemporaries, so they all understood all this. Vats of redolent oil, and there, standing in close ranks against the wall, were jars of seasoned mellow wine, holding the drink unmixed inside them, fit for a god, waiting the day Odysseus, worn by hardship, might come home again. Again. We love us some super potent Y3000. Where are we? I got distracted. So we are around line 380, book 2. Doors, snugly fitted, doubly hung, were bolted shut, and a housekeeper was in charge by night and day, her care, her vigilance, guarding all those treasures. Euryclea, the daughter of Ops, Pisenor's son, Telemachus called her into the storeroom. Euryclea, who we met in book 1, who was kind of the woman who helped to raise Telemachus, who had helped to raise Odysseus in many ways. Like, Eurycleia is our girl. We love her. She's our housekeeper. She's our gal in chief of the servants. Like, you do not mess with her, and we love her. She's a legend. Telemachus called her. Yeah, I think it's too late for Hecate. Yes, correct. Telemachus called her into the storeroom. Come, nurse, draw me off some wine in smaller traveling jars, mellow, the finest vintage you've been keeping, next to what you reserve for our unlucky king, in case Odysseus might drop in from the blue and cheat the deadly spirits, make it home. Fill me an even dozen, seal them tightly, pour me barley in well-stitched leather bags, 20 measures of meal, your stone ground best, but no one else must know. These rations now, put them all together. I'll pick them up myself toward evening, just about the time that mother climbs to her room and thinks of turning in. I'm sailing off to Sparta, sandy Pylos too, for news of my dear father's journey home. Perhaps I'll catch some rumor. A wail of grief, and his fond old nurse burst out into protest, sobbing. Why, dear child, what craziness got into your head? Why bent on rambling over the face of the earth? Oh, darling only son. Your father's worlds away, God's own Odysseus, dead in some strange land. And these brutes here, just wait. The moment you're gone, they'll all be scheming against you. Kill you by guile, they will, and carve your birthright up into pieces. No. Sit here, guard your own things here. Don't go roving over the barren salt sea. No need to suffer so. So Eurycleia's right. Like, she's saying, like, if you leave, we're in more danger because you're gone, like the young fit man of the house, really. But also she's worried for him. Again, going over the sea, it's terrifying. No one guarantee you're gonna live and make it back. So, like, she's worried for him. We love you. Yeah, she just wants him to be okay. Correct. Stuff the way he did, I tried to stop him too. Yeah, exactly. Courage, old woman, thoughtful Telemachus tried to reassure her. There's a god who made this plan. But swear you won't say anything to mother. Not till 10 or a dozen days have passed, or she misses me herself and learns I'm gone. She mustn't mar her lovely face with tears. The old one swore a solemn oath to the gods, and vowing she would never breathe a word, quickly drew off wine in 2-eared jars, and poured barley in well-stitched leather bags. Telemachus returned to the hall and joined the suitors. Then, bright-eyed Pallas thought of one more step. Disguised as the prince, the goddess roamed through town, pausing beside each likely crewman, giving orders. Gather beside our ship at nightfall. Be there. So she asked Noemon, Phronius' generous son, to lend her a swift ship. He gladly volunteered. So fun fact, Noemon, he's not really that important. He's a prominent Ithacan. But very importantly, as I've noted before, you know, we always say, like, it's this person, son of that person, because a lot of people have similar names. In this case, we put the emphasis on Noemon and who his father is because we have to differentiate him from, another character with the same name who is actually a follower of Sarpedon and who Odysseus actually slew at Troy during the war. So kind of little fun facts in there. There was a Noemon who fought at Troy who was killed by Odysseus during the war. Like I said, Odysseus, he a warrior. Like, he fought in those battles for 10 years. Yeah, Athena just great at... Girl is good at her job. Always. The sun sank, and the roads of the world grew dark. Now the goddess hauled the swift ship down to the water, stowed in her all the tackle well-rigged vessels carry, moored her well away at the harbor's very mouth, and once the crew had gathered, rallying around, she heartened every man. Then bright-eyed Pallas thought of one last thing. Back she went to King Odysseus's halls, and there she showered sweet oblivion over the suitors, dazing them as they drank, knocking cups from their hands. No more loitering now, their eyes weighed down with sleep. They rose and groped through town to find their beds. but calling the prince outside his timbered halls, taking the build and voice of mentor once again, flashing-eyed Athena urged him on. Telemachus, your comrades at arms are ready at the oars, waiting for your command to launch. So come, on with our voyage now. We're wasting time. Was Mentor a person or was he created by Athena? He was a person. He appeared earlier in this book. He was very much a real dude. She just kind of likes taking his image. Could Athena disguising herself as Telemachus cause problems since people will remember him doing the things he never did and thus doesn't remember? No, something like that would probably never be mentioned, and he would very readily understand that it's a god, it's Athena. He's kind of rolling with the understanding that she's wandering around in his disguise. And she's helping him, so it's pretty clear it's like a god in disguise and not like somebody who's pretending to be him. The exception to identity theft, Athena. Yes. And Pallas Athena sped away in the lead as he followed in her footsteps, man and goddess. Once they reached the ship at the water's edge, they found their long-haired shipmates on the beach. The prince, inspired, gave his first commands. Come, friends, get the rations aboard. They're piled in the palace now. My mother knows nothing of this. No servants either. Only one has heard our plan. He led them back, and the men fell in and fetched down all the stores and stowed them briskly deep in the well-ribbed holds, as Odysseus' son directed. Telemachus climbed aboard. Athena led the way, assuming the pilot's seat, reserved astern, and he sat close beside her. Cables cast off and the crew swung to the oarlocks. Bright-eyed Athena sent them a stiff following wind, rippling out of the west, ruffling over the wine-dark sea, as Telemachus shouted out commands to all his shipmates. All lay hands to the tackle! They sprang to orders, hoisting the pinewood mast. They stepped it firm in its block amidships, lashed it fast with stays, and with braided rawhide halyards hauled the white sail high. Suddenly wind hit full, and the canvas bellied out, and a dark blue wave, foaming up at the bow, sang out loud and strong as the ship made way, skimming the whitecaps, cutting toward her goal, all running gears secure in this swift black craft. They set up bowls and brimmed them high with wine, and poured libations out to the everlasting gods who never die. To Athena, first of all, the daughter of Zeus with flashing sea-gray eyes, and the ship went plunging all night long and through the dawn. We're off and away we go. And in the next book, we will be at Pylos. We will meet Nestor. But that is book 2 of the Odyssey. How the hell did she convince them to be his crew? Why would they if they weren't willing to stand up for him? So those were people who were not in the quorum. Only like kind of nobles and very specific people were in that sort of meeting earlier. Wine Dark Sea, it's always one of my favorite descriptions. I love it so much. So he could win. Yeah, Athena's a real one. She loves these guys. Yay, thank you for reading. Does anybody have some book 2 related questions? Now that we've finished book 2, before we get into random chats, are we meeting Peisistratus? Not in this book. It needs to be someone else to get what she wants. It's fine. But when I do it, it's called identity theft. Well, she's a god. Different rules. Yes, Clover, I figure you'd have questions. I feel like Nestor just yearns for death. Yeah, the guy is so old. Nestor really is so old. Well, Jake Clerico, you have 2 weeks because we will not meet next week, but the week after for book 3. Can I say I missed the first live stream? So when we came back from London, oh, thank you, Liz. He's so out. Ooh, so we'll pop it on later. Oh, cute. For my 2-star questioner, not a bad question. It's totally fine. Totally fine. He's more specific to the Iliad. Yeah, Nestor needs a break. Please, gods, let me die. Yo, Nestor has seen so much. Only slightly related, is it common for gods to disguise themselves as specific humans and do stuff? As specific people, not always. They tend to just take on the images of people. If they're taking on the images of specific people, it means they have a goal in mind and they're on a mission. They're like trying to do stuff that's like specific to whatever situation. Nestor is 3-generation lifespan. Yeah, no, really, the man is like an anomaly for how old he is. And that he kept fighting. Like, again, he was fighting in the Trojan War. When it's Zeus, it means they're trying to smash it. On ship description again. It's changed forms. Nestor is immortal. I mean, basically. And live till the night. Yeah, Nestor is kind of that guy. He disguised himself as a woman's husband in one myth. Yes, he has. Goes to how great your fathers were. Kind of. Was the Suitors around line 280, but especially here on the spot, he'll meet a humiliating end, also a threat, or just a mocking and taunting. Very likely mocking and taunting. You said around 280? Let's take a look. We can flip through to specific lines. We love that. Also, yes, Heracles. I do believe it, he takes the form of Alcmene's wife. 280-ish. Here on the spot, he'd meet a humiliating end. If he ever fought against such odds. Yeah, they're pretty much just puffing themselves up. They're basically saying, like, no way he could take us. Like, please, we got this in the bag. So Clover, that's kind of, it's not as, you could argue it's a genuine threat, but at this point, they're just sort of puffing themselves up because they're obnoxious. I mean, again, the Suitors, the absolute mean girls. Well, the thing, creative name, is that he ages. The thing about the gods is they kind of hit a certain age and then they don't get older. Kind of depends how they want to look, I guess. Most of the time with the Helen myth, that's the swan. Oh, I'm glad you like the Fagles translation. It is a fun, like I say, it's a fun translation. Backstories are so precious. Any other book 2 questions before I will kind of close out questions related to, you know, the Odyssey and all that. I love the ambient purr. And then we can just sort of chat and hang. You can ask questions that you want and I'll answer things to the best of my abilities. I had one. When Antinous was talking about Athena's gifts to Penelope, was it specific to Penelope because of her lineage, something more custom-made over me? It's kind of specific to Penelope. Like, she was noted for being pretty clever. And I mean, hence her and Odysseus made like the most incredible clever power couple, really. They were so well suited to each other. She is known for being very clever. Queens are not always noted that way. They often will have descriptors, but cleverness is one that's sort of unique to her. When Telemachus gathered everyone together, why didn't he have the herald say he called the meeting? Why did he leave it a surprise? He kind of wants to catch them off guard because he's going to be, I mean, how much do you want to show up to a meeting if a guy's going to just sit there and shame you for the whole thing? So it's, and also a lot of this is happening pretty quickly. He, like the night before, he sort of had to, you know, he dealt with everything the day before in book 1, and this is the next day. So that's, you never knew when you were going to get called. As much as we say, like, stuff didn't happen as quickly as it does now because we have, like, instant communication, like, stuff would happen. It was, like, get it together all the way at 9 and quickly. Yes, thank you, Demon Desire, for explaining Hecate. I saw the question, but then whoop, it kind of left my brain. Supplicant supplicated, yes, for hostess mercy and protection. You have obligations with them. It's really tough when to call on Hecate if you've already violated Xenia. You're kind of already screwed, and it would be at the host's decision at that point. Had nymph blood, but Penelope was known for her cunning. Isn't Athena goddess of weaving as well? Yes, she is related to weaving. A very famous story of her and Arachne, which the only written source we kind of have left for it now is a Roman source. It might be Ovid, or I think it's Ovid is the only one we have left, but there is art of it dating way previously, Greek art related to it, so we know that story existed prior to Ovid having it written down, and there was probably written record of it somewhere. We just no longer have that left to us. I'm just gonna forever blame the burning of the Library of Alexandria, because you know what? I can. But Minerva's patronage to young women, but I thought it was only a Latin myth. Isn't Zeus the god of justice? No, he's related to it, but it is more Themis and their daughter Dike or Dike. Let's just take the throne. He's not in a good position to do so, Doge. He's Doge. He's kind of in an awkward situation where if he would have to essentially be able to fight off anybody who challenged him, and he's just not in a position to do so. They keep referring to telecommunications as sagacious. Is there a reason for that? Telecommunications. Hold on. I have to, that's like an essay. Sagacious. Having her shown keen mental discernment and good judgment. Oh, that he's shrewd. Once Athena, he is being pretty shrewd. Like, he's, as much as he is giving threats and ordering things out, he's trying to balance, like, how much threat and everything else to maintain a balance so that they're not totally weak to everybody, but also he can't totally take on the suitors. That's probably why they're using the English word sagacious with that. Know the rules in the gods don't conduct themselves with any arrogance. Yeah, and this is part of why the suitors are the worst. They know, of course, compliments her weaving with that comment because of her trick with the shroud. Probably also, like, definitely he's making the connection that, so again, like, the Arachne story was known. So Athena plus weaving, and hey, Penelope's using weaving to trick them. She was also goddess of handicrafts. Yeah, so weaving and looming and all of that, that's usually what they mean. My daughter hates Athena for what she did to Arachne. That's fair. Everybody's got their opinion. We always blame burning of Alexandria. Yes. How big was Odysseus' palace? They were eating all the time as well. Yeah. It would have been a pretty sizable palace. I mean, part of why he would have been kind of the head of the kings, head of the lords, and the other rich men was that, like, he was the richest, he was the most powerful, he could fight the best, he kind of had the most and best property. So yeah, it was a hell of a palace. And it would have been really beautiful, likely, and decorated and gorgeous. Matt, I heard something somewhere cost the lost epics. There are lost epics all over the place. A lot of people keep asking my opinion on the Telegony, which is a lost epic. The only thing we know about it is a summary of it that's written in other pieces. So, like, I don't take too much stock on it because I'm like, I can't read the actual epic. So if I had those words, I would then probably have an opinion. Around line 10, when it said, Athena lavished a marvelous splendor on the prince, what does it mean? Did she do something? Literally put a spotlight on him. Yeah, almost like imagine the sparkle effect. Like, she just kind of creates, or she gives him aura. For anybody who knows some K-dramas. Yeah, clever. She basically kind of gives him an aura, like creates an air around him. I know the Romans made Athena look worse with Arachne. Yeah, Ovid was very much talking about, like, fight the man, screw power. So that's why, yeah, that bit with Arachne is way more like that. Takes the throne, the suitors will pull in Ides of March. Yeah, potentially. Got 5 brain cells between them. Yeah. Lifted. Oh, thank you, Ario Panda. Athena protecting, looking at Odysseus' family, always. Why does the book feel so short? It is shorter than book 1. So there's not really like a standard length for the division, and even I talked about when we talked about book 1, or kind of in my initial overview of the Odyssey, that the divisions are a little like, who made the divisions, when were the divisions made? Throw your hands up in the air, we don't know. There's a lot of question marks around stuff like that. So some sections are a little shorter, some are a little longer. I had a High King and King system. Ruby said, I don't know enough about Wales to say yes or no, but it sounds about right. Ancient cliff notes of the lost epic. Yes. I didn't understand why Telemachus didn't take the throne. Yeah, exactly. Like, and they don't really do necessarily like, oh, bloodline guarantees you like sovereignty over this and no one will question it kind of thing. Is that the one with, yeah, I believe that's the Telegony or Telegony, which is why I'm just like, I'm ignoring it because I don't have it there to read myself. House of Atreus from, I think, do the gods accept human sacrifice? No, they don't. It's very famously that they don't, which is why it's just like in the House of Atreus, I'm like, y'all, you guys are descended from Tantalus. Like, remember when he tried to pull that shit with Pelops? What are you doing? It's part of it also speaks to kind of the hubris, if you will, of that bloodline, that they kept thinking, oh, we know what the gods want and this is what they want, and they commit this horrible sin of killing their children and sacrificing the gods. It's a whole mess. It totally doesn't have a brand. Ovid is himself. I had to translate quite a lot of Ovid. Greece is just a giant theater stage. Oh, thank you, Harry. Book 1 is a weekend book. Book 2 is for Monday. Ovid totally doesn't have a brand. What are you talking about? What? Ovid being about screw power? What are you talking about? Romans didn't like Athena. They also made her look worse with Medusa. Yeah, sometimes, yeah. The Romans and their pantheon is very much Minerva versus Athena, you know, Ares versus Mars. It's very different. That's why I say, like, they're similar, but not quite the same. Isn't it shorter, though? Really, is it in English? Probably it feels shorter. I also didn't have nearly as much to talk about like I did in the first, because the first book I had to set the stage a lot. Has it been told one book at a time over series of nights, or how have these been told? Probably in mostly one go. Like, they would devote a whole lot of time to somebody orating the whole thing, or maybe they broke it up. If anybody's familiar with opera, there's a Wagner's famous Ring of the Nibelung is like 4 operas you have to sit through like day after day. I would assume he was the people who would orate the Odyssey or the Iliad would try and do it in one go, but I can't guarantee. I am not entirely sure. Well, the medallions are the dumb, so we're not gonna do it. Only trip to Tartarus or create a punishment. Exactly. Consuming the offering, therefore cannibalism. Not always. It's pretty much just sacrificing a human to the gods. Now, so there's an interesting conversation there, sort of boredom, I will say. When we talk about human sacrifice and sort of cannibalism, the gods almost exist as a sort of exception to suffering punishment for indulging in cannibalism. I mean, part of the thing with Tantalus and Pelops is part of like his shoulder is actually accidentally consumed. And, oh, Clover, you do not have too many questions. I'm always happy to answer them. And thank you for giving me specific lines so I could backtrack and see the context of what you were asking. But yes, Sir Boredom, the cannibalism thing, the gods are sort of immune from that. Absolutely a big sin for the humans to do, but even just sacrificing sacrificing a human as an offering to the gods, like you expect the gods to take that as an offering, is like a big no-no. But cannibalism also just makes it even worse. It's part of why his brother Thyestes consuming his own children it was like so horrifying. Was he indulged in cannibalism? But it's also said that he like burped really loudly like it was a good meal, which is like, oh my god, the levels of gross related to that. It's just like, ugh. It's like the Monty Python skit of like, I couldn't eat another bite, but makes it even worse. So into the video I was watching on YouTube recommended called that. No worries, Sunny Days, it's totally fine. Just kind of making up a journey for Telemachus so he can grow up. I assume she always knows where Odysseus is. Yeah, kinda. She's also, so Jake, what Athena's doing here with Telemachus is, yeah, getting him, as I would jokingly call it, Greek hero street cred. She's like, you gotta set off and do adventures. Have your own, adventure out and then come back, have your own nostos, but also introducing him to these other kings where he's putting himself forth, like, I want to take over my father's place if he's dead and the like, so helping to introduce him to the other kings is great. They also did, well, yes, they did Odysseus really dirty, but that would be because they take it as the Romans take it as their lord, that they are descended from Trojans, very notably Aeneas and those who flee with him. So yeah, they're very anti-Greek. If you ever read the one big Roman epic, which is the Aeneid, it is staunchly anti-Greek. Book 2 very specifically details the sacking of Troy, and it is... Woof! They've got words for the Greeks. Yeah, gotta go get that Kleos. Exactly. Oh, no problem, Jake. I'm here to answer questions. These are good questions. It's basically in the far-flung future, only way people knew about the story was that's funny, creative name. I was the idea that Athena didn't curse Medusa and instead gave her the means to avoid what happened to her again. Yeah, there's lots of ways to read stuff like that. I believe in the original Greek version, part of it is that Medusa didn't say no to Poseidon and very deliberately did what they did in Athena's temple as a kind of you to Athena. But again, depends who's writing the story. Flavors, variations on a theme. And never apologize for questions. Did Troy happen historically or is it just a myth? Oh boy, is that the question of the ages. That would depend on which historian or classicist you ask. Potentially there was something they were basing it on. Was it exactly the War at Troy? We kind of don't know. Up in the air. It's a debate. Like, it's actually a massive debate even still. There are people who go on like archaeological digs and say like, well, this was the War of Troy, and then somebody comes in later and goes, well, no, actually it's just a whole thing. Yes. I like that Medusa was born a Gorgon. So usually, traditionally, she is not born a Gorgon. The complex of Greek morals and inheritance. Yeah, they're very complex and complicated. Probably why when you're teaching things like the Odyssey and the Iliad and you have to like truncate it and do it in a really short amount of time, you don't want to get in the weeds deep in it, because you can just distract people where like you're just trying to teach them the story. It's a conversational question. Do you think the Greeks or the Romans would be more on board with Odysseus and his cunningness? Maybe they'd prefer... Oh, the Greeks would be more on board. The Romans... Well, specifically the Romans hate Odysseus very specifically for his cunningness. They call him like vile and wicked and cruel and cowardly for his cleverness. Now, mainly because he engineers the Trojan horse. The Greeks would be probably slightly more in line with it. And for them, the cunningness would actually be very against kind of what Mars and the martial military stance is. They're pretty straightforward in their attacks and in their... the way their military went around. Now, I'm not a military historian, so don't quote me on a lot of that. But the Romans would be way less on board with Odysseus and his cunningness, mainly just because they are supposedly descended from Trojans. So they have a hard bias. Is Tantalus... Yes, Tantalus was also deception. He did not tell the gods what he was serving them until they were eating it. It's a thing where you have to clean yourself before... No, I don't want to lose the question. Don't want to lose the question. Oh, there it is. Before approaching the gods. Oh, Sunny, I don't remember what that word is. Maybe if somebody knows the words where you clean yourself off before going to speak to the gods. I am blanking on the word. I usually have it. Troy. Pretty sure some early father of archaeology blew up. What do you think is true? It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. Red Fire, the Iliad, the Trojans are portrayed in as good a light as the Greeks. Why are the Romans being salty? Because they're the Romans. They just big mad that they might get called out on their homework. Yeah, no, actually the Greeks are pretty fair in the Iliad. They give both sides like people who are lauded as being very honorable and people who are kind of just like wild and out of control. Like, I mean, for example, Hector is like portrayed as a great hero, a prince of Troy, and like you get mad at him in the story for what he does to Patroclus, but that's because we are talking about Achilles' wrath very specifically. Like that's the core of the Iliad. Like literally the first word of the Iliad in Greek is manon. It is wrath, rage. So that's like what we're focusing on, and that's why you get the slight slant there. But no, the Greeks were actually in their tellings of Troy, like most of the blame they kind of just put on Paris. Like they get real big mad at Paris, understandably, but everybody else, they're pretty reasonably fair. Ilium is based off a real city the Greeks sacked in about the time of the Iliad. Yeah, again, that wouldn't surprise me. I know there's a lot of debate and scholarship on the topic. See it as necessary even if they don't like it. I thought the Trojan horse deception was against their morals. Who? The Greeks? They didn't love it, and that's why they would do a lot of sacrificing and stuff afterwards, saying like, sorry, we did this massive deception and we did it the way we did, but this was the Hail Mary pass and Achilles is dead, so like, we have no choice. Sorry, not sorry. It was the Trojan horse for the Greeks would have sort of towed the line. Bet Julius Caesar thought Odysseus was dopey and secretly. Honestly, Caesar probably totally did. Let's be real. So fun fact, when I took Latin, I had to translate part of his Bellico Gallico, which is his talking about his beating of Gaul. And I'm like, this man would totally be like, yo, Odysseus on the DL. That horse thing was cool as shit. You mean a monster? They saw Odie as a wuss for resorting to tricks. Then yeah. Don't like doing X, but if it gets the job done, go for it. Yeah, like at least in their what they think about themselves. Yes, achromatic. Kind of a last. It was very much a last resort. Wasn't hold on, Clover, I saw your question. Where'd it go? Was interpreting omens and prophecies something everyone did and some people were just better at? Was it a certain people's job? Did people have to go to people for help interpreting them? Usually people who were kind of augurs or oracles and the like, priests, you kind of went to specific people for it. Now, if somebody was noted to have a talent in it, they were sort of known for it. But it was not something that just like everybody like could just say, well, I think it means this, well, I think it means that. You would go and try and get an almost like certified official version of what that oracle meant. So the fact that in the Odyssey, that one guy steps up and says, I'm noted for discerning prophecy, discerning omens, means he was probably an augur type. I am Team Hector always, man. No, Team Hector was doing what he had to do. Hector was absolutely doing what he had to do. Sure would be a shame if someone conquered you. Yeah, that's the Romans. The Romans are forever salty. Oh my God. The Aeneid is legit one of the saltiest things you'll ever read. The Romans are descended specifically from Troy refugees. No wonder. Yeah, exactly. Roman propaganda. Oh my God. The Aeneid is literally just Roman propaganda. It's probably why I think Aeneas is so boring. Paris was a wuss. Yeah. Heracles was just doing his job defending the city. Heracles. Oh, I think you mean Hector. The way that encounter goes down in the Iliad, it goes a little far. Yeah, it kind of doesn't go a little far. The Iliad is messy. So yeah, you can argue that what Hector did wasn't wrong. They're in combat, single combat, so it's absolutely like, hey, look, it happens. But there's some question marks over that one. But again, part of that is to fuel the wrath of Achilles. As such a legacy in Western world after considered one of the 9 worthies in medieval. Oh, really? Rebecca, I did not know that. I don't know enough about medieval concepts of chivalry. That's actually really cool. I want the most woman who isn't married. Yeah, if only he'd specified that maybe she'd be single. Invented currency. I miss them, bro. Would give me a sheep. I'd give him a cow. Desperation will make you make interesting choices. Correct. No, come back. I'm a little behind on the chat, so sorry. I'm making my way through. Trojan horse was a desperate times call for desperate measures. Yeah, because they lost Achilles. Like, if they hadn't lost Achilles, they would have kept going the way they were going, because then they're like, yeah, you'll win. But he dies, and they're like, rage goddess, sing the rage of Peleus' son Achilles. Yes. It's like one of the most baller opening lines. So for those who don't know, that is like the opening line of the Iliad. It's just rage. Sing to me the rage of Peleus' son Achilles. It's like one of the most dramatic, and like, it's so Greek. High drama right at the start. Yeah, they saw it as a kind of a necessary evil, if you will. Better to ask for forgiveness than permission and all that in that moment. Yeah. They knew it was towing the line, and as long as in the aftermath they, you know, give proper sacrifices and be like, sorry, our bad, we know that wasn't great, but hey, look at all this shit that we got you, isn't that cool? Like, and you conduct yourself, then you might be okay. I see you built a horse to get past a wall. Well, I built 2 walls to get past a wall. Actual, yeah, honestly, yeah. Sunny, I know your question is down there. I thought I saw it pop up, so I'll get to it and say, I'm told the Vietnamese ice cream shoes. Is Tantalus from where we get the word tantalizing? Yes, correct. Use the horse, given that's it, you know, it was eaten by snakes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a very, so what Achromatican is talking about, the Trojans, the prophet or the priest who was the Trojan on the side of the Trojans warned them not to take in the horse. His name's Laocoon. It's a very famous moment of the Aeneid. These serpents come out of the sea and basically like strangle him and his sons to death. There's a very famous sculpture on the topic. So Laocoon, if you type that in, you will see the sculpture come up. It's one of the most famous pieces of like classical sculpture, and it's super cool and dramatic. Some said they took his 2 kids while they were at it, but like, yeah. They basically said, shut the fuck up, bro, you're ruining the surprise. That's what the gods said. Just ending a war. Yeah, Paris is very much portrayed as a wimpy coward. Like, he's the worst. Like, the Greeks have no love of Paris, but they are like, nah, but Hector, like, we get it. You're a cool dude. You killed my lover, prepared to die. Yeah, pretty much. Oh, don't worry, I figured out what you meant, Rubies. Trust me, ADHD, hand, mouth, brain, not always in same thing. One of those quotes on hardcovers. The Iliad is messy. Yes. It's all the messiness of the Greek men on display is the Iliad. Oh, Rebecca, that is actually very interesting. Hey, things we learn. What do you think of Achilles' son, Neoptolemus? Neoptolemus doesn't have too much that I really can think of about him. Like, he's kind of there to sort of be the next Achilles, but he's never going to be as great as his father. So he's the new war. Would you still consider the Roman version worth a read? Brandon, do you mean reading the Aeneid? The Aeneid is definitely like worth a read. You can get a view of how basically Virgil was writing something that he was pulling great inspiration, obviously, from, you know, the Odyssey and the Iliad, these Homeric epics, and from other pieces of literature to essentially write a big piece of Roman propaganda for Augustus. Yeah, Virgil's fan fiction. But it is actually still, I think, worth the read. It's not the easiest, but there's moments in it that have become famous. Stuff like the sacking of Troy, the incidents involving Aeneas and Dido, Queen of Carthage, which is like sort of meant to be setting up why Carthage and Rome got beef that, you know, goes back forever and ever. So I would still say it's worth a read. Just as long as you get like a knowing the Odyssey inside. Can I copy your homework? I promise to change it up. Yeah, Virgil really tried to sort of take parts of the Iliad and a lot of the Odyssey and like smoosh it together. So like, that's why I say at times it reads a little clunky, and just like, maybe I'm also biased because I had to sit there and translate it, which was just a chore, and I'm not good at translation. Oh.